Hello and welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries. Right, so it's all about the starter motor and possibly how to charge the battery tonight. So I've taken the starter motor apart. You can see that this is the part that engages with the flywheel on a conventional car. So that's the pinion gear, which comes off the end of this spline shaft, which is quite useful. You can buy these as spare parts, so that's very useful. So what I plan to do is to get the pinion wheel off here, which I've done. There's a little circlip that goes in that groove there, and there's a spring on the bottom that holds that in place. And I suppose these are interchangeable, so you can have, as a vendor, one type of starter motor and have it fit different car engines, because you just change the pinion gears. I imagine that's why it's done. Anyway, so what I plan to do is to grind off or turn off the splines on the outside of the pinion wheel, buy another sprocket. This is a sprocket off the end of the Dynastart that we made fit the Dynastart. So buy another sprocket with the right number of teeth on, bore out the centre of the sprocket, take the splines off the outside of this pinion gear so the sprocket goes onto the end of it, and then with the sprocket about in the centre, just put a few runs of weld round so the sprocket is attached to the boss. And then I can put that back on the end of the starter motor and have something that starts the bike. Hurrah! The problem with that, of course, is that it will be permanently in drive, and that is a problem because not only is this running at 3 times engine speed, because it's a 3-to-1 reduction on the chain to the engine, but it's got these nice little planet gears in the back. And that means that the actual starter motor runs 3 times this shaft speed. So that would absolutely whiz the starter motor over too fast. It's a bit plasticky, it's made to a price. So I need to get some kind of one-way clutch bearing on here, and the drive sprocket isn't particularly big to allow me to do that. But rather than work all of that out, what I plan to do is just do a quick and dirty bodge so I can get a sprocket on there, get this bolted to the bike, which is just behind me there, and see if it will actually turn over the motor. There's no point really doing too much more at this point, because I want to know if it's got enough oomph to start the motor or not, and whether or not we still need to make a new head. Now this pulls forward when the pinion engages with the ring gear on the car, so there's a little fork like my fingers there that pushes that forward to engage and backwards to disengage. That is actuated by the solenoid, which is in here in the casing. The solenoid pulls a little fork which pushes that forward. All of that will be disabled and removed. I plan to make a spacer that goes between there and the bearing in the bottom of there to manage the end float and lock this, so it will never come forwards and backwards, which is handy. It means everything is firmly in place. So once I have that on the bike behind me, which is just here, I will be able to mount the starter motor on the back here, engage the chain which is on there with the end of the starter motor down there, and then everything is fine to start the bike, and I can see if that's going to work. And then I've got to work out where am I going to fit an alternator to charge the battery, because I need to have a separate alternator. Car alternator, probably the answer. You can buy some little Gucci alternators. They're about that big, 45 amp alternators. They are pulley driven with usually a V-belt pulley off one of the accessories on the car engine, and that has a built-in regulator rectifier, and it'll start the bike. Magic. But I need to work out where am I going to fit this on the bike. So it's not going to be easy to get a V-belt pulley driven off any of these things here. I could drive it off one of the chains from the gearbox. I could drive it possibly off the primary chain, but it all seems a bit tricky. I could drive it off the rear wheel perhaps, but it hasn't been designed to have a alternator in place. So I'm a bit stuck as to how to drive the alternator. I need to work out a way of spinning the alternator while the bike's running without too many belts and chains and all the rest of it. If there was a way to do that, while to spin the alternator while the bike's wait a minute, I think I've just had an idea. Turn the alternator while the bike's running and it was an aircraft engine at one point. There's a bit of a homage. I could be onto something there. Right, quick question. If I put an alternator where the headlight would normally be and run it off a propeller, is that cool or sad? Let us know, make a comment. My missus thinks it's sad. I think it's rather cool. So let me know. As usual, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. More updates will follow.